as women are equalized in society, there's going to be less and less men that they want to date because the men are going to be making less than them. I mean, I think this is the difference between red pill and blue pill people, is because they value different things, even though they're both trying to achieve the same thing, which is get girls. But the big problem there is what they actually value in women. That number of successful men is obviously shrinking, though, because as the women make more money and are equalized more in society on wealth, then more and more men are going to be pushed to the bottom and basically be virgins for life, it seems. AiA episode 47, reacting to Destiny and him having a debate with a blue pillar. He seems to be on this sort of red pill debate arc, which, you know, has been pretty interesting to see, at least from my perspective. Just some info about me is I am a Destiny fan, and, you know, I don't try to react to much of his content because I mostly agree with a lot of what he says, and I don't want to just sound like a broken record. But this is really interesting to me because I never really saw Destiny as the red pill guy. I never saw him really going down that road because a couple years ago, red pill was definitely had another peak of it, and now it seems to, in the past couple of weeks, been on another peak recently. You know, a lot of my podcast episodes have been circling around the red pill, and obviously Destiny is fully into that arc at the moment, and this was just an interesting debate he had that I thought would be pretty good for reacting to. And this is basically him debating a blue pillar, as the title suggests. So if you don't know what red pill or blue pill is, basically in layman's terms, a blue pill person is someone who just believes, oh, just be nice and you'll be able to get women. A red pill person is someone that would say that a man needs status and also like improving himself and basically not being rich, but having some level of wealth to attract women. I guess I fall more and less in the middle. I don't consider myself red pill, even though a lot of what red pillers say I am inclined to agree with. And it seems like, well, that's the path Destiny is taking. I don't think he's full on red pill, but I definitely think he is sort of agreeing with most of what most red pillars sort of believe. I mean, he did go on the Fresh and Fit podcast. This will be talked about in the debate he has here. And in that podcast, he seemed to agree a lot of what Fresh and Fit said, and even Sneako said as well. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend checking that Fresh and Fit podcast episode out with Destiny and Sneako. But yeah, anyways, let's get into this debate. And obviously, before I start, the original video will be linked down in the description. So if you don't want to watch my commentary over it, definitely recommend you go checking out that video, and also just give Destiny the support he deserves. So let's go.
Hey, I got a couple questions about that Fresh and Fit thing. It was really good. You had a good showing.
Thanks, I tried.
But here comes the but.
Okay.
It's the only one, I swear.
Go for it.
The moment where you dropped the whole, like, when there was that moment, the awkward moment. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
how did that happen?
Joke.
No, not the N-word joke. Whatever. That's a fucking, listen, that's a nothing burger. That's a bigger nothing burger than Hillary's email.
Okay.
No, the fucking when when it came out that you're in an open relationship, and it even came out the worst way. It almost sounded like they were insinuating that you're just that it's not an open relationship, that you don't get to.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but something you have to recognize with these communities is that any type of open relationship is a cuck. Like if I were to say I watch my wife getting railed in the bedroom and I cry, versus I'm like in an open relationship with both people, in that audience, both of those things are exactly the same. There's literally no difference.
Dang. Okay.
It's just how
the thought going through my mind when that happened was like, fuck, man, this was like the one biggest thing for you to prepare for when this came up, and it just felt so flat.
There's literally nothing like that's just a super ingrained. Like you have to fight on every other topic, but on that thing, that's like an immovable thing because you're striking at like the core of a lot of people's like masculinity there. Like the idea of like having. Yeah, of course, because that and my bisexuality, of course, is going to come up. But I mean, like, the way I see it is like, you own it and you move on. Like, that's it. Because, like, the thing is if you try to fight on the point, the way in all of their minds, the way that audience interprets it is it's all going to come across as a massive cope, and they're not going to believe anything you say. they're going to be like, oh, like he's like, now that he's arguing about it, he's even more sad. Like you can tell how angry he's getting every time his wife is with some BBC Chad, like he's crying. And the more so he's like, yeah, you just own it and you move on to the next thing. I think that's it.
Huh. I think there's a measure of that. I think there's a risk of that, of like coming off like you're trying too hard to convince somebody. But
I mean, if you want, you can go and read through their subreddit or their comments or whatever. That's an unwinnable. I think it's important to identify. I learned this from Rob. I take a technique from every person that I argue with. Okay, I learned this from Rob. Something that is incredibly effective is if you think there's a point that you can't win, you concede it immediately and move on to the next thing, and you don't even bring it up again. You just completely boom, boom. That's it. If you fight hard on a losing point, then you're investing a lot of emotional energy. You're getting a worse opinion of you being created or fostered by the audience because they're seeing you like try to fight on a massive L point, and it's going to poison the rest of the arguments you make because that's going to stick stronger in their mind. Whereas like you make one joke, you're a cuck or whatever, and then you just move on to the next thing, and then you focus on the areas.
It's actually a really good debate tactic, I would say. I don't think a lot of people use it really well, actually. And that's obviously what Destiny said, is that if you're on a losing point, or a point really isn't like, you're just going to lose on it, it's good to just concede it and move on, rather than invest the time, energy, and, basically just like emotional, like sort of argument into that thing you're going to lose. And that's kind of what Destiny did on the Freshman Fit podcast when he was basically talking about his open relationship. Obviously, they were going to be all over him about that, and he was able to, easily concede that point and just move on immediately, which is the smart thing to do in that circumstance, which I am glad he did. But it is very important to recognize those certain points. And I think it was a good point for him to move on and stuff, because they were really kind of like trying to get on to him about that, but he was able to basically dismiss it immediately and basically knew like, hey, I'm not going to fall into this trap or whatever. So it was good on him.
Is that you can fight the strongest in.
All right. Well, I have a couple questions. Number one, who the hell is Rob?
Rob Noor or whatever? Nowhere?
Oh, Rob Noor. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something he does really well, I don't know if you noticed this, but like he'll be like, Hillary Clinton was murdering people like Seth Rich, and she did her email stuff, and it was super f***ed up and everything, and I don't think that was good. He'll be like, Hillary didn't email Seth Rich, dude. Do you have any proof of that? Okay, yeah, she did. But the email stuff is really important. He'll concede so quickly, you don't even know you won a point. He'll just concede and then move on, and you're like,
sure,
wait,
that may be the case.
Yeah, I should feel good about that. But he'll concede it and then move on to the next strongest point so quickly. And rhetorically, that's an incredibly effective thing, because now in the audience's mind, you didn't even get a W. They're just like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just talking about something. They're going to the next thing, Yeah.
It's just all conspiracy theorists are like that. You put one thing down, they say, yeah, but all right, here's the next one, here's the next one. I don't know. It just feels
sure, but I think Rob is exceptionally good at making it look like he's never conceded a single point, because he'll say, okay, and then move on to the next thing, and you're like done before you even realize.
To his base, the base that's already predisposed to like wanting to hear his side or whatever.
Well, I think even rhetorically, I think that to anybody, it sounds good. This is why one of the debate things that I've gotten, and I'm trying to hold people more to this. I think I did it a few times on the Fresh Fit podcast. If you feel like you've won on a point, you need to pull that concession out of them. You need to get them to say it so that the audience can understand it. It's almost like directing a movie. Like you have to explicitly show things to people to make them understand. You can't be like subtle about it. So like, well, a couple of the times they brought up this like one-ended open relationship. Like I had to make sure that the audience understood, you are only talking about like a 1% of men that can do this, right? This isn't going to be for 99.9% of the audience. And even though that was kind of implied based on everything that was said before, I needed to hear them say it so that the audience knew nothing that we're talking about right now applies to you guys. This is some 1% of 1% shit. Yeah.
Okay. You've been doing this for a long time.
True.
So, I understand that you have a lot of experience with this,
Yeah.
but
I always take critiques too. So yeah, go.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure I agree. Like right now I'm kind of in a space where I feel like you are the energy that you put out, and that like, even if you have insecurities, even if you have things that you worry about, even if you don't fully 100% believe all the things that you're saying, if you put out the energy that you do, you're going to fool a lot of people. You're going to convince a lot of people. And yeah, I don't know, like reading the subreddit and stuff like that, that's going to give me a gauge on the most vocal people, what the most vocal people have to say. I'm just curious what that would have looked like if, like, instead of just letting it fall flat and you just being like, yeah, 6'4" NBA player, yeah, sure. If you had been like, yeah, sure, listen, maybe sex isn't that important to us in our relationship. That's a thing that we don't really want to deny. All the arguments that you know. That
yeah, I know what you're saying, but the issue is that like when I'm arguing, I have to stand on So this is part of me acknowledging mutual descriptive truths. When I'm fighting with them, we have to be standing in the same dimension. I can't be standing in another world screaming at them because I'm going to look insane. So comments like that, like, oh, well, the sex thing isn't that important, blah, 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 blah. Any phrase that I utter like that, it might be consistent from my worldview, but I am striking against core fundamental tenets of what these other people believe. In their mind, and they enumerated or elaborated on this later, in their mind, a woman that's fucking another person is doing so because you're deficient. A woman that's fucking another person is doing so because she doesn't respect you. A woman that's fucking another person isn't truly in love with you because a woman that loves her man wouldn't do that. So for me to just kind of casually brush over them, like, oh, we just both have sex because it's fun for both of us. Even if I believe that, in their minds, they're hearing these things. It would be like going into a debate and be like, oh yeah, 1 + 1 is 3, 2 × 2 is like 10. And sometimes I think 10 divided by 5 can be 17. It would be the equivalent to uttering that, where every single thing I'm saying, the audience would be like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Everything would sound insane. I would have to spend a lot of time building up that argument in a really foundational way. It wouldn't be something I could just brush off in a friendly manner. Although I encourage you to try if you want to try that, but
Well, I mean, I feel like I do that pretty regularly. I don't have obviously the wealth of conversations that you've had or at the scale that you've had them, but that is like my sort of strategy is at the very least, I've seen you do this. You plant a seed, right? In that moment, you could have been like, we can talk about that. It may not be exactly as you think it might be. Like if you want to have a more in-depth discussion about my open relationship, we'd like to. The way you
Byron actually,
I wouldn't agree with it.
I think he DM'd me to chat to come on and like argue about it later. I think this morning I saw that. So maybe we might do that at some point. I wouldn't mind having a conversation about that explicitly. But that has to be a dedicated. It has to be a dedicated, full-on conversation.
The rest of the conversation would have to be about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can't be something I bring up in passing because I need to hit. There's a whole strategy to having that conversation that's going to be incredibly challenging. Yeah, and it all has to be handled with like extreme care. Yeah.
In that moment, even I think if you wanted to have your cake and eat it too, I think maybe in hindsight, the optimal way to approach that would have been like, like you said, saying that, hey, it doesn't bother me that much if we both fuck her. It doesn't bother me that much if she's like messing around with other guys, and it doesn't bother her that much if I'm messing around with other girls or something like that. If that would have been 1 + 1 = 3 to that person, like planting seed or something. Like, have you ever thought about maybe why it wouldn't bother us that much, but it bothers you that much?
It bothers them because we have a foundationally and fundamentally different way in which we do.
I'm just saying, planting that seed of saying like, well, like maybe it bothers you more than it bothers me, and it would, bother
because it doesn't sound. They won't even believe what I'm saying. They won't even believe it. It just sounds like a huge cope.
Well, it could. It depends on the energy that you put out, and I think you're generally
I understand, and I do think I'm pretty good, but that's why I can analyze this 50 million ways. Like I can say in kind of like a passive blasé way, and it's going to sound like I don't want to talk about it much because I'm like coping, or I can be very bombastic, but like, yeah, I don't give a fuck if my wife is getting railed. Like, go for it. That's going to sound like a massive cope. It's like, oh my god, he's getting like he's so on it. Well, sure, but I can be like, it's cool if she wants to fuck other people. Like that's fine. You could say, but then people will interpret it as, oh, he's being meek about it because he's really unconfident about it. Like there is no way. It's just too foundational. I understand what you're saying. We disagree to disagree here. I think that is too foundational to the core of what they believe to ever be able to approach that in some rhetorical way where it comes off sounding good. It's just impossible. It's like the equivalent of like trying to sell a dude on like getting f***ed by a bad dragon dildo like every night. Like how do you make that sound like it's an okay thing that people won't like think is like super hardcore? Like there's just no way. There's no, like some things can't be overcome with rhetoric. They cut too hard against some fundamental belief, I think.
I don't know. Listen, even if it's not them individually on the podcast, it's the 40-40-20 rule, right? Like,
I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to comment here because it's about open relationships and stuff, and it's like how to get people that aren't in open relationships, basically like sort of on that agreement level or understanding level of why open relationships work for them, whatever. But at least for me personally, I'm not an open relationship type person. I know that's like, it's more and more popular nowadays, but obviously it's much more just like rare overall. I would say maybe like 5% of people that are in relationships are actually in open relationships. And even to just like hit on every point to make it sound like, oh, I'm not coping about this, and this is actually like, a better thing for me. I think it's incredibly hard. But the good thing is that we might see more Destiny on the Fresh and Fit podcast because they both, they're based in Miami. He lives in Miami now. So potentially he can actually be on for a second episode, which I think will be quite interesting to hear if he actually does.
Like it's the people that heard your response to that versus what, I think could have been the more optimal response. The number of people that were just like if they thought that you were just like a useless cuck and nothing you had to say about relationships was valuable because of this detail, I think the way that it came off just completely re-entrenched 100% of those people when maybe you could have reached 1 or 2%.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just totally disagree. Because I think anything that I would have done that you're suggesting would have re-entrenched it way harder. Me trying to fight on that point or arguing anything, I think that would have re-entrenched it even harder because everything just comes off as a cope. I think and it's just like, well, but you're telling me to take like a different rhetorical approach. Like, I feel like I'd rather just move on as quickly as possible because there are so many other weak spots in that argument that I can hit on so much better and more effectively than ever trying to win on this ground. It's just, but we're circling the drain on it. But yeah, you can have the last word again.
Sure. Whatever. No, I think we've talked to death.
Sure.
The second thing is, I feel like when I hear you guys talk about women, and I'm curious if this is a rhetorical thing or if you have better thoughts about this, but like when I hear you talk about like LA women or Miami women or like the way that the people on the show talk about women, I understand from their perspective. And like the way Sneako and fucking Andrew Tate talks about women, their entire experience with women is confined to like club chicks, like 18 to 22-year-old women that haven't established themselves, women that don't have any skills yet or anything like that. Like they're not established. They don't have really anything to offer other than being young and hot or something like that.
Keep in mind, you got to be careful when you're saying that. All of those are really good traits. Because while you see a woman that's inexperienced, in their world, that's a woman that's coachable. While you see a woman that's just young and hot, they see a woman that has been masculinized by Western society. While you see somebody that doesn't offer anything of extreme value, they see somebody that they can make dependent on themselves that will only enrich their lives. Everything you're saying is a negative, and their worldview is an extreme positive. That's something you have to keep in mind, because you can't just start going in on things because people are going to look at you like, yeah, and of course she has no experience.
I don't think it's necessarily a negative.
I mean, I think this is the difference between red pill and blue pill people, is because they value different things, even though they're both trying to achieve the same thing, which is get girls, obviously. But the big problem there is what they actually value in women. Because, I don't know, at least talking to red pill type people and hearing red pill people online, they seem to talk about the, same stuff, where it's like, oh, I want a woman who is young. I want a woman who is, well, fertile, obviously, for having kids, loyal. They basically want a young, hot girl, 22, 23, somewhere in that range. That seems to be what they want. Versus maybe a blue pill type person might just be looking for a partner, regardless of, their age, education, job, whatever. It doesn't, they might be looking for different things, even though like girl bosses or just women who have their own careers is much more popular nowadays. There might not be as many men looking for that, but maybe the blue pill types do want that. I'm not 100% sure on that. I have to do more research, and again, it's kind of hard because it's all about just hearsay, hearing what people say about a certain topic, because there's no studies on like blue pill and red pill or whatever. But I need to hear more of these blue pillars talk and more of obviously the red pillars talk, because there's, that seems to be the topic nowadays. But I just need to hear more of them talk and see what they really value in women and what they're actually going after, because I honestly have no idea. So I need to do more research on that.
But these are the traits, right? But I feel like that that sort of conflicts with when they talk about women being inferior. Women can't do this better than men. Women can't do that. Women aren't suited for this. Women aren't suited for that. I know because of my personal experience, the women I talk to, this, that, or the other. Like that's what I'm referring to. It's like it sounds like they're just not interfacing with any like professional women in professional spaces or educated. Or
yeah, to some extent that's true. But they also don't like those women either, because they view those women as being masculine, right? They want coachable, docile, demure women. That's like their goal.
Isn't there some sort of rhetorical jujitsu you can pull there where you can be like, well, maybe you're not man enough to handle a woman like that or something like that?
No, to somebody
that's put it like that. But
that's what I would put it like if I was talking to somebody similar to me. That's what I would say, because because I've done those arguments where there's a whole line of thought where I can be like, oh, it sounds like you're just threatened by a woman that is confident. It sounds like this will work against people that have kind of shaky worldviews.
See, the problem with that argument is, again, they can always come back and say like, well, I just value this and that's just how I am. Because again, even though it's like a useless statement, different people value different things, they can always say that. And I don't think that's a cope to say that, but a lot of people could consider it that way. But what it really comes down to is like, I think it would be very hard to just, I don't know, take a normal person, whatever, would they rather, or a normal man who like isn't terminally online, it isn't like crazy, like, you know, me or Destiny or the people, you know, probably watching this video, whatever, take a normal person in society, right? And you say like, well, what would you rather have? Would you rather have an educated woman in her mid-30s, or would you rather have a young, hot girl who's like 22 or 23? I would think the normal guy would take the 22, 23-year-old. Just that's, again, that's what most guys value. I mean, most guys are shallow. They value looks rather than education, even though if you are with a woman who does have a career and does have education, your life is a lot more stable at that point because you're not having to solely rely on just yourself in that regard. But that seems to be what a lot of like red pillars do, is they sort of perpetuate this sort of masculinity. Like, as a male, you need to be the sole provider of the family and you have to do everything and break your back for the family and all that. When if the sort of wealth of the family was split between two, you know, the masculine, the feminine role, the girl and the guy, then, you know, maybe it would be much more stable and, you know, at least smoother in my opinion. But again, that's why these arguments are so hard, because, you know, when someone says, oh, I want a young woman or whatever, something like that, it's really hard to get them off of that and not make it sound like they're coping, because that's what most guys want.
But when I'm on a show like that, these guys have been fleshing out their worldview for months, over a year now, right? Maybe years, but maybe before they were on the show. The Myron dude is a smart guy. He's not a dumb I'm not going to be able to just like trap him with an easy one or two gotcha questions. Like you can, one, tell he prepared for this, and two, he's a sharp dude. He's not an idiot, even if I disagree with his worldview. So when you're dealing with people, this is a trick I figured out. When you're dealing with people with very consistent worldviews that are internally consistent, if you try to throw a gotcha question or you try to undermine them with an easy like rhetorical punch, they will destroy you and make you look horrible if you're not ready. So for instance, this is something I noticed when it comes to dealing with conspiracy theorists, you don't ever give them open-ended questions because you will look like an idiot. If you're talking to an amateur, you might, right? If you're talking to somebody who, if you're talking to like some random fuck and they're like, oh, I believe in flat earth. And you're like, okay, well, why is it that if I shine a flashlight across a lake, you know, why does the light go down by the end? You know, like why does it look like there's curvature of the earth? On an average person, I could be like, oh shit, I don't know the answer. And then you look really good. But if I'm talking to like an expert level flat earther,
I understand what you're saying. They have all these things.
They've got
the geometric properties of the plane.
Yeah, but even worse, you won't even be able to counter, right? Yeah. I'll say some shit like, why is it if I shoot a light across a lake, why does the light fall? And they'll be like, well, in your model, isn't light literally affected by gravity? It doesn't get pulled into black holes. So why wouldn't the light be pulled down to the planet?
I understand. This is the same
and now I'm like, oh shit, I don't actually even have an answer to that. I don't know how to do it. And because I've asked them a question that they've already had these questions thrown at them before. They know all of the fucking answers to these. I'm going to get caught out because I tried to trap them and I don't know what to do past the trap because I'm used to everybody falling in the hole. So you got to be, I think you have to be really, really careful not to fuck up on shit like that.
Yeah, sure, I agree. And yeah, that's the same example I use. If I ever, you know, I've always said like if I had to debate a flat earther, I'd fucking lose because those guys. I've seen some of those on modern day debates. Jesus Christ, some of those guys are.
And you need like PhD level physics knowledge to like start to untangle like some of the weird fucking shit they'll throw at you.
There are some areas that you can go. What's that?
I was gonna say half the flat earthers are PhDs in physics. I know a couple of them who just like got bored and so they'd go online and make up troll models that no one could disprove unless they had, you know, 10, 15 years of physics experience.
Sure.
How do they answer like the difference in the stars in the night sky depending on which hemisphere you're in?
It depends on what type of flat earth you believe in. There's a lot of different models for it. Some believe in like the inner spherical model where you're like inside and there's like a substance above. Others believe that as you move around the earth, like other like different planes can rotate in different ways because the sky is like two-dimensional or whatever. There's a whole bunch of different types of theories on it.
There's the elevator earth where you're literally just like on an elevator moving forwards to the sky, and that's what.
Oh yeah, the earth is constantly accelerating and ascending up, and that explains gravity. Yes, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
But that still wouldn't explain why you can't see the North Star from like far enough in the southern hemisphere. That's the one I'm curious about. That seems like one of the most obvious examples.
You mean it's a diagonal elevator?
Yeah, but you'd still be able to see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. You can find a flat earther and ask him, but
yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So I guess like if you don't mind me going into like more, I guess, personal.
You guys are all missing it. I don't know how you've lost this. The best way to destroy flat Earth, and the one that makes them look the most ridiculous, is ask why you can fly from Peru to like New Zealand in like a few hours. Because that's like that.
I don't even know if you do though.
That doesn't go very far at all.
That should go incredibly far because then they have.
You just go.
If you look at flat Earth, no. You don't understand. If you look at a flat Earth map, those are on opposite sides because you can't just go over the pole.
It's a cylinder.
That doesn't make a difference. Flat Earth is not a cylinder.
Okay, we're not here debating flat Earth.
No, but hold on. Think about that. That is the
Dan should've
easiest
debated
way.
flat Earth.
Wait.
You know what? I was going to come in here earlier and talk about maybe how some of your success that you're not giving enough credit to Dan, like that Artesian Builds talk that you had. Fucking Dan coming in with the clutch question we found out about motherfucking, what's his name? The CEO guy having a bunch of young, like Asian fucking assistants.
Yeah.
That saved the entire interview. But now, I don't know. I'm second guessing myself. I think Dan might be sticking this one
Dan's
up.
mid.
Hold on. Let's pull up a flat Earth map. All right. If you look at a flat Earth map, you're going to see that. I guess is that Chile or Peru? Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's funny.
lots
The
of-
way that I like to go with that one is like, okay, well, you have to believe in a global conspiracy because, like, not even Russia, like, from
Yeah,
Finland and
yeah.
stuff, like, whatever. Yeah, sure.
No. That's not the good one. You can
yes.
fly from Chile to New Zealand and not have it take you all day. Every flat Earth map that you look at, they are on the complete.
They just make the plane go faster. They artificially
I
slow down all the
understand.
planes.
Yes,
Go debate a
that's
flat
the whole
earther
thing.
and figure out the answer. I don't know the answer to this, okay?
Can I just you fucking
Yeah, okay,
interrupt
do
me?
it. Yeah, go. Well, how do you fly over the North Pole and the South Pole if it's a flat Earth? We get
No,
it.
that's not it.
Dan
It's
wants
the
to set up
belief
a
that
show,
a
man.
fucking Delta airplane has like alien tech that makes it go like 10,000 miles an hour. No
It's
one
just that
believes
all the other
shit.
ones are going slower, Dan.
Okay, never mind. I'm
Just
sorry.
don't
You know
pump
what?
the image.
Fuck it. Good luck.
Thanks. Okay, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so if you like, you're part of the sort of hookup culture. You like hooking up and stuff.
Sure.
Are you just going to like? Obviously, the trade-off is the higher probability to hook up is going to be at the places with the women that are least interesting, and vice versa, right? For women, the places that is going to be the highest consistency to find a dude to hook up with is going to be the places where the dudes are all like meatheads and fucking not whatever.
I don't know if that's
like, they're not
necessarily
there
true, but for sake of argument, sure.
Well, okay. Well, tell me about it.
I think women like to fuck. I think that there's a lot of like social shame that goes along with it, and I think there's a lot of like weird games that people play that kind of inhibit women's sexuality. But I think that women are generally open and free to express themselves sexually. I think they like to fuck. I think the idea that like, oh no, like women are naturally the gazelles that are hiding from the lions.
Hold on. I
and all
didn't
that shit.
contradict that. I said.
Well,
for
you're
women,
saying that like to find women that want to fuck, I've got to go to like the lowest denominator of like fucking weird Miami chicks. But I don't think so. I think there's a lot of like educated like chill women that also like to fuck too. They just
Yeah,
don't
I
feel
think
like going to
that's,
say
I think that's
yeah.
true.
Okay,
I think that's
gotcha.
true. I just said like the highest probability that you're gonna like if you're a man, the highest probability like you're gonna go to a place that is going to have the highest saturation of women that are most willing to have sex, right? And
Okay,
they're
sure. Yeah.
probably
Okay.
gonna
Yeah. What's the
listen
next
to
part?
somebody
Yeah.
else. And it's vice versa. It's true for women as well. Women, when they want to have sex, are going to go to a club as well because the highest saturation of men that are there to have sex is there as well.
Sure.
But like the saturation of people that have something to offer beyond I want to have sex with you tonight is like the lowest there, right? Because people are going there with a mission. They're on a mission, right? They're going to
Yeah.
the club on a mission. Obviously, like I would say there are a lot of other places where you can try to like hook up with people where maybe the likelihood that you're going to find somebody is lower, but the likelihood that you're going to find somebody interesting that you can like sort of enjoy outside of sex is probably higher.
Okay.
Are there like whenever I hear this topic come up of like going to the club in any of these spaces, like red pill spaces, and you engage in this a little bit, I'm just curious about what your thoughts are about this, about like advice that you'd have about dudes that want to like hook up or like find women that are not like club women or whatever the hell. Like,
Wait,
if this
hold
is
on.
a
Now,
thing
are you
that
asking
practice,
how do you
try.
find women to hook up with but not be in relationships with that aren't club women?
Well, specifically, I think a lot of people probably came away from that podcast thinking, wow, like, I'll tell you this, my sort of biases were confirmed watching that. When I watch any of those like Red Pill people or Andrew Tate or Fresh and Fit talking about the quality of women or what women are capable of or what the average woman is like, I understand that it's because the average women they're interfacing with are like women at the clubs or whatever. But there are plenty of places you can go and meet women that are like maybe a higher caliber than the average club woman that these people maybe don't interface with or just don't know about or maybe don't have a lot of
I don't know what you mean by
success
higher caliber. I don't know any of these terms. What you mean by this?
with. They're more educated. Maybe they have careers. They're more accomplished.
Okay, because those wouldn't be higher caliber to these types of people, at least that are listening to Fresh and Fit.
I'm not ready to assume that. I think that's.
No,
I
I'm
think
telling
it's-
you that is true.
as a
These are
general-
lower caliber women.
I think that's a healthy assumption to make.
Really? You
Yes,
think so?
I know so.
They don't want career women.
They don't-
want
their
somebody who's
view
gonna
is
be
that-
okay sitting at home.
Yeah, those types of traits are masculine traits. When they talk about women that have gone to school and pursued careers and are working, those are masculine women to them. Those aren't desirable women at all.
Feminine women at
Interesting.
college get the MRS degree.
Yes.
What about like artists and I don't know? Like, there's plenty of accomplished women that aren't necessarily doing STEM shit.
Yeah, but
They
if
want
they're
coachable women that can
straight-
take care of their households and like add value to their life. That's it. That's what they're looking for.
Sure, but then it feels like that contradicts their idea of what the average woman is capable of, because like
What do you
they're
mean
mixing and
capable of? They
matching-
think that they're capable of all sorts of things, but they don't. Just because you're capable of something doesn't mean you want to do it.
They don't though. If you listen to them, like Andrew Tate talking about how women aren't like capable drivers or whatever the fuck, right?
I don't.
Or
I
shit like
can't speak to Tate. I can't speak to any weird shit he says. I'll tell you that on the Fresh and Fit podcast, what Myram and Fresh would say is women are capable of doing all sorts of things, and that's part of the problem. That like women have become like more masculinized, and they're not coachable or groomable or whatever. That like that's a problem. Yeah, they can get careers and do that. They're able to do it, but it's not good for everybody else. It's bad for society.
Okay, I mean that feels like
And that seems to be the rule, or I mean, view of the red pill community. It's they don't want women in traditional masculine roles because, you know, they feel that that is a detriment to society because of the fact that women date up. And the more money they make and the more careers they have and the more success they have in society, the less likely they are to date a man, because as women are equalized in society, well, there's going to be less and less men that they want to date because the men are going to be making less than them. That's why 1/3 of men nowadays are virgins and or either have not had sex in the past year. Virginity is skyrocketing with Gen Z. There seems to be this sort of correlation where there's this massive amount of men that are getting left behind in a way of where like women just don't even want to talk to or touch or even touch with a 10-foot pole. But there seems to be a, you know, much smaller group of successful men that are getting a lot of women or are having a lot of success in the sexual marketplace. So that number of successful men is obviously shrinking though, because as the women make more money and are equalized more in society on wealth, then more and more men are going to be pushed to the bottom and basically be virgins for life, it seems. Because if you really think about it, if 1/3 of men nowadays, I think the age group is 18 to 30. If 1/3 of them are virgins or have not had sex in the past year, think about how many lifelong virgins that there are going to be now. And if that keeps correlating, which it shows, at least in the data, that this number seems to be going up and up and up, that potentially by, I mean, literally 2030, 2040, half of all men 18 to 30 could literally be virgins. And think about that. Most of them might even be virgins for life at that point. Because, I mean, you know, if you haven't had sex at 18, it's not the end of the world. But if you haven't had sex at 30, that's probably a good indication you're most likely going to be a virgin for the rest of your life. Again, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that is probably not good for men mentally. You know, as humans, we are sexual creatures. We want to have sex. And if we just aren't having sex, well, you know, that might lead us to a, you know, lower quality of life and a more depressing, less fulfilling life. But again, that's just an observation. So take it with a grain of salt.
like that's a trad like sort of argument that I'm used to hearing, but that's not what I'm used to hearing from the red pill spaces. It just seems more like the way they talk about women being inferior, whatever the hell. Like fucking Myron started the whole podcast off making a joke about how women, like men are superior to women. Like, in all
Sure, he's got like the
aspects.
little notebook of sugar people. I think if you push them, they're not going to say that women are inferior to men. The thing they're going to focus on more and more and more is that women are different than men. That's what they're focusing on. Now they might say inferior in terms of like career and work and all that, but they'd say they just have a different set of responsibilities.
Okay, yeah, and I guess I was more curious about your sort of like it's a personal question, you know, like if you don't want to answer it, it's cool.
Well, that's
But-
anything. What's up?
It seems like you have a lot of similar complaints as like, you know, maybe the average red pillar about finding women or the average women or something. Like you talk about LA women or Miami women or whatever.
No, but my complaints are exactly the opposite. Like these guys seem to analyze what women are like, but they also like that same thing that they analyze. That was my big critique of Fresh and Fit, is that like you guys keep talking about how there's these crazy girls, they overvalue their pussy, blah 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 blah, but it seems like you're literally obsessed with fucking exactly these types of girls. So how can you complain? That was my whole
Right.
that was my whole point that I tried to. I think I got that actually through. I thought I failed really hard on that, but a lot of people in the comment section are saying that like, oh yeah, like I never thought about it that way. Oh yeah, that's true. That they're criticizing a certain type of girl, but all the energy they're putting out into the world is creating that type of woman. But their escape from that is like, well, we don't create anything. We're just telling you how it is. It's like, okay, well, whatever.
Oh,
I can't.
boy.
Then I can't like. I guess you're unimpeachable then. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, Irrelevant has a really good paradox for that, where he talks about how like the red pillars, they try to make it out like to be the most valuable woman, you have to have sex with the least amount of people. So if you place that restriction on women and say you can only have sex with 1 or 2 or 3 people, then of course they're going to reserve those experiences for like the highest quality men, and that just fucks like the like less accomplished men more or whatever.
Sure.
Do you think it's a selection strategy where if they can convince all the women that, then they can have sex with more women and they don't have to deal with all the slutty women going around?
Wait, what?
If they go and they say to everybody that a woman's only good if they're pure, and then those women are only going to go to the high value men like themselves, so they're just perpetuating the number of women they're going to sleep with.
No, it doesn't matter. Nothing. When you're in positions like those guys, or even like me, you don't have to play games to get a lot of women. Women are naturally going to come to you. You don't have to tell your fans not to fuck them. Because you're always going to be able to outcompete those other men just because of your status in life and everything.
Yeah, he brought up Leo DiCaprio too. It's funny, he brought up like
yeah, he tried to say, oh, like look at Leonardo DiCaprio, but I was like, dude, he dates like exclusively like 25-year-olds. Like, what do you mean? Yeah,
I feel like you didn't have that might be sort of room for you, some legwork that you can do for the next one, because it feels like you didn't have a super good response to that, and there are a bit like what he posed was a counterexample of like a highly successful man and how he was only going after like unaccomplished sort of really young women.
Yeah, but I clarified this later, and I did this much better than I thought too, because I saw several people echoing this. I clarified this later. People, it's actually incorrect, and I'll expand on this more next time. It is incorrect to say that like women won't date down, or men date down and women don't date down, men date down. That's not true. Men don't date down. The thing is that what the man is doing in that situation is he is actually projecting the male desirable traits onto the woman, and then he's saying that he's dating down. But that's not true.
No, it is shown in studies that men date down in terms of like wealth, right? Because traditionally women did not earn the same as men, or they didn't have the same jobs as men. So that's why when men say they date down, that's in terms of wealth. But the reason that women tend to date up is because they want that financial security. So therefore, they are going to try to date up. But now that most women that are a lot of equalized in society, they work good jobs, especially, I brought up this statistic before that women in their 20s out earn men in their 20s. That seems to be the case. And, over time, I predict at least that women in their 30s will out earn men in their 30s, women in their 40s will out earn men in their 40s. And if that trend continues, well, we're going to see more virgin men. But I think what I see from that is that, yes, men tend to date down and women tend to date up. And this is according to wealth, this is not according to like attractiveness or anything like that. But again, when you talk about like dating down, it also is like something incorporated into status. But we obviously in Western society, any Western society, and you equate status with wealth. So
a man, when a really accomplished man is dating a really young and hot woman, he's not dating down, because the man's value there is his career, his money, his stability, but the woman's value is how hot she is and how young she is. In that case, they're on equal level there. The woman is very hot and very young, so her status is really elevated. He's not dating down. He's dating exactly where he should be. That was the issue that I brought up with Leonardo DiCaprio. So they're like, oh no, Leonardo DiCaprio is dating down a lot. He's dating unaccomplished women. That's not true. The accomplishment, accomplishment of the woman is being young and hot. And in that case, Leo is dating exactly where he should be, which is exclusively young, hot women under the age of 25.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what are some, if I were to pose that same thing to you and be like, no, even these like super successful dudes, the highest value women, they think, if I look at Leo DiCaprio, what are some counter examples you could come up with now that you thought of it, of like really successful men that are trying to, like pair up with really successful women? Oh, you know what else? He mentioned Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, and he talked about how this guy's nerdy, but he's rich, and it just amplified his energy. And what happened? She left him. Like, that's a complete mistelling of that story.
Yeah, but I don't know 100% what happened. I'm never going to ever try to fight on some ground that I don't know everything about. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Because as soon as I bring anything up, I learned that with Lawrence Southern. If I start bringing up like parts of an argument, I don't know the story in and out, I'm going to get fucking destroyed and look like an idiot. So I'll never fight on those grounds.
You learned that vicariously through Lance and Lawrence Southern, I imagine.
No, I've learned it vicariously through me and debating Lawrence Southern, where if she brings up a story and I don't 100% know everything, she'll either like bullshit her way through it or know some obscure factoid, and then I'm completely lost in the argument. So if I'm not 100% familiar with the details of a story, I'll just drop it and go to the next thing, because I'm not going to risk like trying to fight on some ground that I don't know.
Damn, that's a shitty conundrum because you kind of have to like.
It is. I
makes
mentioned this before. The exact conundrum is that if I'm in a debate with somebody, they're willing to make up facts. They always have the edge over me because I'm never going to assert confidently something that I don't know anything about. But if I'm in a debate with somebody else who will do that, we get into a weird back and forth. There was a while where I said, I tried this on stream. There was a while where I said, sometimes I'll just say, you're wrong. I've read that study. And I've had people back off points. And I can tell them that they were making shit up. I've done that a couple times. I think I did it a couple times versus.
And in those instances, are you just bluffing or?
Yeah, 100%. Someone will say like some shit, and I'll be like, oh, I wish I could remember. There were a couple of keynotes where I was like, no, actually, I read that study, and the conclusion was the exact opposite. And then they'll drop it, and they'll move on quickly to the next day. Like, okay, you didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. So, but it's too risky because when I'm debating somebody intelligent or they do know what they're talking about, and I get caught doing that, then I look like all my credibility is gone.
Yes. That's the gambit. Yeah. And it really does seem like the lowest risk thing you can do is just like bitch out on the topic and be like, I don't want to talk about this. I haven't read about it. I don't want to.
Yeah, you just move on to the next thing. Yeah.
One of the biggest strengths you can have in debating and like having these public conversations is like the greatest strength you have is in how much the audience doesn't know that you don't know, and like providing the air that you may be prepared for whichever new sort of area that your counterpart may be willing to move to. Yeah, I don't know. And like anytime you expose, I don't know anything about that, it just like, fuck, it just falls so flat for an audience, and it shows your, the weakness to your counterpart and shit like that. It's such a risk, even if it's the honest thing to do. And it's the best way to sort of protect yourself from being embarrassed and having a Lance moment where you're like, come out super strong. Oh, they're genociding these kids. Look, and then you look, it's like, well, you didn't even read the fucking article.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is you just have to be as informed as possible, like have as much information as possible, and try to hope that like they don't bring up something you're not familiar with. Yeah. And if you do prepare enough, you can get rewarded because sometimes they'll try to bring up stuff that they don't know about and you do. That happened a lot in the Allsup debate. I did a lot of research for that pro-life thing. And when he started bringing up certain studies, I knew the exact Breitbart articles that he was taking these studies from that were quoting them. So it was like a very, very easy one because I was familiar firsthand with the sources he was bringing up. But, yeah.
Primary sources written by James O'Keefe?
No, it was just he was misciting like studies and stuff that I know because they were linked in Breitbart articles, and the Breitbart article miscites the studies. So,
yeah.
So then how do you engage with people who are just totally willing to throw it all away, like Haas and Hinkle?
You just have to be really, really, really familiar. It's like debating a conspiracy theorist. There's not a shortcut to it. You just have to know. So like I could do the Haas and Hinkle stuff on like on Ukraine and Russia. I'm pretty confident about that because I know so much about it. But like on any other topic, that's why I usually just don't debate conspiracy theorists. Also, I can't do it. It's a no-go for me because there's too much random shit. The vaccine stuff is a really good example. I feel really, really confident in vaccine stuff, but even with that, there's so much like random misinformation and shit. There's always a new conspiracy theory about some new thing, and if I'm not prepared or read up on it, then they're gonna have something that I'm not ready for.
Dang. And even then, they could just make some shit up too. Like you could be having a debate with Haas, and they could be like, yes, but you didn't know about the Bolshoi exception in 1928.
Yeah, and I have no idea. Yeah, and then you just lose.
You've got to Google it, and that looks bad in a debate. Fuck.
One strategy that I've been doing recently that has worked really well a few times. Oh, you were here for that conversation. Is when somebody brings up some wild shit now, and I feel like it's wild shit. If it's somebody that I have low respect for intellectually, I'm actually okay being like, okay, well, let's just Google this and read about this right now. I think that the story about that Leo dude was really good, or worked in my favor a lot in that Nazi debate. The one that we had. You were there for that run, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Was that just the other day? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, let's go read about this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually annoyed me, and I kept trying to get you off that because I feel like it annoys me. Maybe I should have had a little more faith in you, but like wanting to know this the truth of this historical like legal case that's highly contentious and disputed or something like that. Like I feel like taking 5 minutes to read a Wikipedia article about that doesn't do the respect to like that to really get to the truth of that. And it's very like it even in that.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm sympathetic. Wait, did you disconnect? Did I disconnect?
No, he's here.
Oh.
His mic went. No, you're there.
Okay. It's a wild world we live in these days.
I don't know.
Wild people.
Just speaking colloquially, I know people in finance who still believe half the shit on Super Stunk. They're not very successful, but damn, do they drink the Kool-Aid?
What is Super Stunk?
It's with all the GME conspiracies and everything.
Yeah, and they're managing, I don't know, 5, 10, 20, $30 million, something like that. So they're not nobodies, but they're not huge. It's pretty fucking insane to me, but
dude, those guys, I feel like you could do like a whole cognitive psych project on like motivated reasoning and shit when you dig into like the The due diligence that they do on shit, it's unreal. Like how far they go to like bend and twist like everything to explain like why they're getting fucked or why there's somebody rigging something
or why this time is going to be the one that makes Chimi go to whatever $400 billion floor or whatever.
Yeah, don't be a loser that sells when it's worth 100K a share. You have to wait for like at least 1 million a share. Like,
yeah, well, one person might get 1 million, or you can get 100,000 for your 10 shares. So remember, there's only so much money, and only one person can sell the top, and that's almost certainly not going to be you.
Okay, do either of you guys have a Twitter feed that's full of dumbass crypto shit?
Nope.
fuck no, I'd never pay attention to that. Crypto people online are the worst.
Well,
I mentioned this on
what do you
Fresh
wanna
and
talk
Fit.
about?
People that get rich because you bought some shit coin and you lucked the fuck out that are now pretending like they're fucking financial gurus, like writing white papers on other dumbass crypto. They're so fucking annoying. Bro, you didn't accomplish anything. You're not smart. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You got lucky. Shut the fuck up. Take your fucking lottery ticket and get the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ.
I had a recruiter reach out to me to be a trader for cow coins. They offered me 500 grand plus like a couple $1 million in fucking cow coin equity. Like apparently there's a shit ton of money to be made scamming retail. So,
Damn, why didn't you take it?
why? Because I'm not going to prison for trading unregistered securities.
Do you think that's going to happen with all these rug
Yes.
pulls and shit? You think the SEC
Yes,
is going to
yeah,
catch up?
it will.
They're starting to prosecute, aren't they?
Eventually.
I thought
Yeah,
there were a couple
you-
charges dropped, yeah.
Yeah, so they're prosecuting Ripple is the big one being fought right now. There's also there's a lot of like small ones in the works, because what they do, how regulators kind of work, is they're 5 to 10 years behind most things. They'll come after the most egregious offenders first, so they're going to go after like all the explicit people. So BitConnect, there was another one, it was like Buy Bitcoin or something like that. They're going to go after all the big ones and all the explicit scams first, and then they go to the rest of the industry, and then they clean house afterwards. But they're always pretty far behind what's happening in the real world. I think they just hired like another 100 staffers or something, or maybe it was 10. They hired a lot more people to focus on crypto in general, because that's coming to the forefront, right? We just saw Luna blow up, and that became a huge political event because a lot of people and their constituents were losing a lot of money to what was an unregistered security that was sold to the public. There were promises of returns made that is definitely an investment contract, and there was no regulation around that. And a lot of their constituents lost money. But two, they're also scared about maintaining.
I still remember the Luna coin sort of disaster there. I remember it was an AiA episode. It was a pretty good episode too, if you haven't checked it out. But yeah, the Luna coin disaster was quite insane. It was trading at like $100 a share or a coin, whatever that might be. And literally within a week, it was trading for a fraction of a penny, which is just crazy to think about. But that sort of thing happens with the crypto shit. And again, I just don't touch crypto with a 10-foot pole, because you have to think about this. If it's unregistered and unregulated, the SEC is coming after it, and whatever money you've made off of that is going to be extremely highly taxed, and most likely you could be indicted for fraud or something like that. So again, it's not worth touching, in my opinion. I think it's just something you should probably steer clear of. That's something I said when the Luna coin disaster happened, because it's really not worth it. It's something that is probably really dangerous to touch. And even though, yes, you could make a lot of money off of it, I personally, it's a lot of risk. And unless you have a lot of money you can just throw in and not really care about losing, then, that's up to you. This is not an investment advice, but I would do a hell of a lot of research when it comes to throwing my money into a cryptocurrency.
Any control of the dollar system. So as an entity, I can't go out and create dollars, but there's an argument that these stable coins that aren't fiat backed by just like treasury reserves or something like that, there's an argument to be made that those are just basically counterfeit dollars. If I say, oh yes, this is Destiny stablecoin, always worth $1, because I say it, well, there's an argument that you're just counterfeiting a US dollar right there.
I don't know about that one. That seems harder.
Oh, sure, but I mean, yeah.
hard just thinking about it.
Dude, good one, man.
Whoo!
Dick jokes. Yeah.
Wieners.
So yeah, how's DGG coin? Do you have cake cooking that up? What's the launch plan? When's
That
your
would be
white paper?
funny, though. I bet there's a lot of money to be made there, though.
Oh yeah, if you put anything up and you have a couple $1,000,000, I'm sure you can like double your money in like a week just copying a code base and then a good advertising base to pull too. I mean, just look at the FaZe Clan Save the Kids token. Like that pulled a couple
Oh,
$1 million
God.
in like 2 days. But now imagine if you.
I feel
did
like we
this,
have a really
bunch of-
recent example we could look at too. I don't know, like within the past couple days. Can anybody think of a really recent rug pull that we can?
Oh, the Martin Shkreli? No, he got hacked, bro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he
fucking
just
Martin
had-
Scarlett, CJ. Oh shit, here we go again.
There's no way he's that dumb. Like,
For just 400K, but who knows?
yeah.
I mean, if you can get people to still believe it, and yeah.
Why would I do this for $500,000? For only
Well,
half a
you
million?
just got out of prison. You don't have any money. What's the easiest way to get 400K? Oh no.
It is funny
remember
because
that.
I feel like you could find. Actually, I know I said this. I guess it'd be a funny meme clip to make. I'm pretty sure when I spoke to him like a month ago, didn't I actually explicitly say like, "Bro, you should do one of these crypto rug pulls. Like it'd be sick as fuck. Like
Yeah.
everybody's doing it to make money." I'm pretty sure I explicitly suggested that to him.
Yeah, and then he thought about it and he did it in the matter of a month. I don't know. Just the space that he had, whatever the Twitter space is, it was like the biggest amount of cope. It was like, oh, well, gee, I guess I should have like not just gone to sleep. Oh, gee, I guess I should have like not had whatever. It's like he didn't think about anything. At all.
Anything,
There's
yeah.
no way. Yeah, it's like, why would I bother writing 30 pages to get 400 grand? It's like, well, I could just pay some guy, or at least back in like 2017, it was like $10,000. They would set you up with like a white paper, a website. They would copy paste the code for some project, so you'd have a token that would like run on like AWS.
Sure.
And they would just like set you up, and then you just made your branding whatever. And I'm pretty sure those shops are still around, and that's like what the FaZe Clan people did. Is just like 10K for your crypto in a box. I'm sure he just did the same thing.
Yeah, maybe.
And then maybe like paid some guy to write a little bit about proof of medicine or whatever the hell that
Yeah.
he was doing. Yeah.
Hold on one second.
You know, there's also a lot of drawbacks, obviously, and you just have to balance those and get the best out of something without getting the worst out of something.
Are we getting a Shkreli NFT rug pull soon?
No rug pull. I don't rug pull.
Yeah, jeez.
Rug pull is for people without money who need money desperately. That's not me.
I guess this was a 2 month ago conversation. Well,
Well, he said he wouldn't do it. I don't know what else
well,
you guys
he said
need.
it's rug pulls are for people that desperately need money that don't have any, though. He did say that too.
Yeah, how many league skins do you guys have?
True.
I feel like there's so many better ways to just monetize yourself than just like
Yeah, especially when you're Martin
Like, you could just,
Shkreli.
yeah, you can just do the same thing that fucking Jordan Belfort does. That scammer piece of shit is still out there charging 50 or 100 grand every time he makes a speaking appearance. Like, it's totally doable.
Yeah, but what's
Dudes.
harder, writing 30 pages? We're going to talk
Thanks.
for like 2 hours.
Well, it's about like the future of your name too, because I feel like unless he really does get away with it, I think his name is pretty fucked now. Like he came out of jail, he kind of had another shot to rebuild stuff, and now like within 2 months of being in that halfway house,
oh, did he have another shot though? Like I feel like he's a household name
Yes.
for being the pharma bro.
he had another shot online for sure. Like maybe with like normies, his reputation is like ruined.
Even in finance, he absolutely could have just like been a name on one of the funds, taken like a small 1 or 2% cut just to have his name, because there's enough people who think what he did
Isn't
fine.
the worst thing. Yeah, relisting drugs, making money, it's not bad.
or was good business, or at the very least,
thinks that
profitable,
one,
sure.
that it's good business, or two, that he has, marketing appeal. It's like, oh, this one of our senior advisory board members for our new whatever is like Martin Shkreli, right? And then his name is worth something to just like stick on 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 funds. because there's plenty of people who are willing to go to bat and like pay for stuff like that. So
Okay,
It just-
here's the real question. If it's just 400K and that's nothing to him, and that's, these rug pulls are for poor people, and why would he write 30 pages for a mere 400K? Is it out of the question that he would just refund people that lost their money?
No,
or
he's
maybe
not.
he's going to VCs, but he's absolutely not going to.
I mean, it's nothing to him though, right? Like, I feel like that's the way out for him. I don't know.
I think he
I
just
don't know what
wanted
his net
money
worth
that the
is,
courts
but-
couldn't seize. I think that's what it is. It's like he knows for the rest of his life all his income is going to be taxed for all the money he owes, and then that's a way to get at least a little bit of a bag.
Jeez.
Wow, Salen, thanks for gifting 10 tier 1 subs, buddy.
I don't know. Either way, I think it's like a lose-lose for him. Either way, I just don't know why. I just can't fathom any reason why it went down the way it did.
It doesn't look like any of the crypto rug pulls, any of the people are actually going to get their refunds back or money. Because at least doing research in that, I wasn't able to really find any of the people that got scammed when it came to Lunacoin or any of the other shit coins that crashed. People actually getting their refunds back. So, like, when it comes to this, even publicly known names like Martin Shkreli, I don't think he's actually going to refund the money. And I think people for, a long time until, like, cryptocurrencies get regulated to an extent, none of those people are actually going to get their money back. And most of them are just scams again. That's why I would go into crypto very hesitantly, but that's just me.
Because, like, he's got to go into this looking like, oh, well, if I just get ratted and I lose this entire project that I was trying to build, yeah, I get 400K, but no one's ever going to do anything with me again.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before, because like the thing is, the focus, I don't even think, there's like two possibilities. He either scammed or it was an unimaginable amount of ineptitude. And I don't know which one of those is actually worse. Like,
I would say it almost certainly had to be the scam.
I mean, if you're
just
so
doesn't
dumb
happen.
that you're like losing 400K because you're downloading fucking torrents or some shit, like,
You're never going to get anything again. And
yeah, like that to me is worse than the actual scam. Like if you were actually that technologically inept, that's wild to me. But
I don't know. They did that Save the Kids coin, and that Phase K guy is still, like a million YouTube view guy, right?
Yeah, but he's also not a convicted felon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his business isn't like, oh, I'm pretty smart, I know how to do whatever. I know how to, invest in all these companies. I know how to turn around these drugs. Whereas Phase K is just.
I
Like,
see what you mean. This is
just
going to
entertaining.
limit. This is going to limit Shkreli's like professional opportunities.
Yeah.
What little he had.
and the casual like online professional opportunities, that's really generally what we're talking about, probably.
Yeah.
Well, when's DGG coin?
Good one. What is this?
I look at like Destiny and I look at Sneako and I look at the show that was going on like 3 days ago. I think it was done with the best of intentions, but no one took Destiny to the woodshed, and that's what needed to happen. And sometimes that's hard to do because people don't want that conflict. They would rather, well, he's a content creator and he's got 2 million viewers or he's got whatever. Yeah, but they need to be taken to the woodshed. Abba and Preach needed to be taken to the woodshed. All these guys need, and especially critics, we're really kind of running into, I mentioned this on Rule Zero, and I mentioned this last time I had.
The problem is like we could do this, but the problem is that it's just gonna be him screaming at me the whole time that I'm a cuck, and then me saying like I don't care that much about doing an open relationship, and it's gonna be him going cuck, and me going I don't, okay, if that's what you feel, and then he's gonna be like, you're coping. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever makes you feel better about yourself. His mind is too small to conceive of another worldview. Like, I can explain why they think the things they do or why they feel the ways they feel. I can do that perfectly. I've done it. I've already done it today. And if you put me in any red pill debate, I can take up their side and I can argue.
I don't think that you can convince red pillars nowadays that an open relationship is actually good, because at least the limited time that Destiny actually had that conversation on the Fresh and Fit podcast, it really didn't seem to work out for him. And yeah, I mean, actually convincing them probably just wasn't going to happen. Maybe if they have like an official 2-hour debate on the podcast about just open relationships, he might be able to do that. But I don't think he'll be able to do that easily.
Every point they have better than probably most of them. Maybe not Myron, because that dude's pretty bright. But in their mind, he can't conceive of a mind like mine, right? Like if you're in an open relationship, you must be really insecure. You must feel like you're getting cucked constantly. It must be eating away. You must be horrible. Like they're like, my mind can't be envisioned by them. So like I'm not saying this to talk shit. What I'm saying is that it becomes like a really boring debate where like the whole time he's gonna accuse me of like coping or being in bad faith. And it's like, well, what the fuck how am I even supposed to engage with you? You know? It's like the Astral Codex 10 milestone. Yeah, maybe something. Oh yeah, the developmental milestones. Yeah. I've seen his content. It won't be like that.
Anyways, those guys, I'm gonna stop the debate there. The debate really fizzled out, and that's really what happened. But anyways, that's about it for the video. If you want to check out the full video, it will be down in the description without my commentary, obviously. Please support Destiny and his video too. But anyways, I guess the red pill debate is still going on. This is still quite popular. I might be doing future AiA episodes on the red pill, maybe even having more future debates on it. But I guess I just have to wait and see. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the episode, everyone. And until next time, see ya.